Welcome, 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 everybody. Let me know if you can hear me, if you can see me. There's a slight delay, so and I was rushing to hit start. Let's see. I've got my iPad over here to make sure everything looks good as well. So if you could post in the chat and let me know that you can hear me, I would very much appreciate it. It looks like you can see me, so great. Welcome everybody. Happy Sunday. It is like cold and rainy today, so I've got my cup of hot tea. So I hope you have yours as well. I'm gonna go ahead and post in the chat. Welcome everyone. Today we're talking about the 9 harmful things you do to your dog without realizing it. And here we go. Okay, so let's get right into this because it is a cold and rainy Sunday, and I gotta tell you guys, as I was like going over this in my head today, I was like in a mood thinking about some of these things because I have actually like gone to train with some people who have done some of these things, and it's like getting it through their skull has been a bit of a challenge. So I'm going to try to calm myself down a little bit, and we're going to go over these 9 harmful things you do to your dog without realizing it. I would love to know that you're here, know about you, where you're from. Tell me what your weather is like today. Let me know about your dog. I'd love to know like how many dogs you have. Let me know their names, what kind of dogs they are. And if you have any questions at all, whether it pertains to the topic we're talking about today, like what we're actually, any of the 9 things we talk about today, or if you just have something else that you have a question about with your pets, go ahead and post that in the chat, or if you're watching a replay, you can post that in the comments. I will be happy to answer that for you. So let's get right into, if you are a Patreon supporter, then you got this post about an hour ago. And in addition to the 9 things we're going to talk about today, you got 2 additional bonus things, which I think are actually really, really incredibly important. So if you're not already a Patreon supporter, check the link in the description below to become a Patreon supporter. You'll get all of the back information and everything new going forward. So you get new and exclusive content over there that you don't get anywhere else. So let's start at the beginning, because you know, our dogs they're not human, they're canines, right? So one issue that we have is that a lot of people treat their pets like they're humans, and in some respects that's not a big deal, but in others it is, and because they're a different species altogether. Now, treating them like family members and including them when you move, and you know, taking extra precautions when we move, or if there's, you know, a natural disaster, if anything like that, they are family members in that respect, but their needs are different from ours, and the way we communicate, the way they communicate is different from us. There's so much. Even though there's a lot that's the same, there's a lot that's different too. And we have to take these things into account to make sure that our dogs and our cats too are living, you know, happy, fulfilled lives. So let me know in the chat section. I'm going to turn my volume up real quick just to make sure. Yeah. Okay. So it sounds like my volume is good. I just wanted to make sure y'all could hear me before I went on. So the very first thing, and some of these things we've talked about before, but this is like a condensed list. So number 1 is attaching a leash to a collar. You know, some dogs like wearing collars and some dogs don't like wearing collars. Kim, for example, she doesn't really mind wearing a collar. It's not like, I mean, she scratches and itches at it when she is wearing one for a little while, but that kind of subsides over time because we don't have her wear one all the time. Like if she lived in it, she would get used to it. So it's like anything new, right? It's going to be like, I'm not sure if this is comfortable, but some dogs really love them and some dogs really don't love them. I like using collars to have identification. And they also can be very fashionable. But I only ever recommend attaching a leash to a harness because of the damage that can be done to the neck and the throat of your dog, especially if you have a dog that pulls. I mean, this can happen to any dog because of humans pulling, but if your dog is a strong puller, then you have even more, increased chances of throat and neck damage, including spinal cord damage. So I only ever recommend, there are always, no matter what I'm talking about, there are always going to be exceptions to the rule. But in general, I only ever recommend attaching a leash to a harness. And also, you want to make sure whatever you're using, whether it's a collar, whether it's a harness, you want to make sure it fits well. So for small to medium-sized dogs, you want to make sure you can get at least one finger underneath of the collar comfortably all the way around, or around the harness anywhere. And on harnesses, there are anywhere there's like a joint. So like under your dog's front arms, you want to make sure, and anywhere along their chest, or even if it hits down into their belly, you want to make sure that it's not chafing anywhere. For a large breed dog, you want to make sure you can fit 2 fingers under the collar all the way around comfortably, also with the harness. So having the right fit is really important, but also attaching, just don't, in general, I say don't attach a leash to a collar. So go ahead, I'm going to take a sip of tea really quickly. Go ahead and post in the chat, in the comments, if you have any questions about that or what kind of harness to use. Let me know. Go ahead and post in the chat. Oh, it's nice and warm. I just made it. I am drinking a Celestial Seasonings honey chamomile vanilla this morning. It is so delicious, and I sweeten it with honey too. I really like honey, so I tend to gravitate towards honey teas to begin with. They're just delicious. So let me know. Excuse me. Let me. Thank you. Thank you. I know. You want to tell me all about it? Come here. Sorry, guys. The neighbors were coming out, and they have it looks like their children are over. Hi, I know, so there's new cars out there. Thank you very much. Thank you. Good job. Okay, so sorry about that little distraction. Things happen when we go live. Okay, so number 2, the second thing you are potentially doing that is harmful to your dog and not realizing it, you should never, ever, ever, never, 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 ever leave your dog alone in the car. 2 reasons. First, the temperature inside of the car rises very, very quickly, and the temperature inside of the car gets to way, way, way higher temperatures than the outside of the car. For example, even if it's a nice breezy 60-degree day outside, a car parked can actually get up to 110 degrees inside. So that's a big difference, and your dog can overheat very, very quickly, and it can be fatal. So we never, ever, ever, ever want to leave our dogs alone in the car. Also, if you do leave your dog alone anywhere, even if you run into a store and then tie them up outside, if you leave your dog alone, they can be stolen, they can be taken. If you're leaving them alone in the car, somebody could steal the car, not even realizing that your dog is in the car, and your dog is gone with them. Or they could break into your car and steal your dog because they want your dog. And there are lots of reasons for that I don't want to get into this morning, but those are the 2 main reasons that you should never, ever, ever leave your dog alone in the car. All right, guys, let's keep moving on to number 3. So we're on number 3 of 9, neglecting your dog's dental health, so their teeth. So if you are a raw feeder, you may already provide your dog with raw, meaty bones, which are a great tool for keeping your dog's teeth and gums in really, really great condition. Their gums are going to like they're not going to be inflamed or red because you're taking care of their oral health. Their teeth are going to be pearly white. So if you're not adding raw meaty bones to your dog's diet, then you'll definitely want to make sure you are brushing your dog's teeth regularly. Do not use a human toothbrush or human toothpaste. Human toothpaste is not good for, in fact, I'm not even sure it's good for us. Like I literally, I told, it was a couple years ago, I told my husband, I normally use a sensitive, a toothpaste for sensitive teeth. And we were out of town, I think. And I forgot my toothpaste. So I was using my husband's toothpaste. And because I hadn't used anything else for quite some time, I put his toothpaste on my toothbrush and I started brushing and I'm like, this literally tastes like it has sugar in it. Like it tastes like sugar. I'm not saying that it has sugar in it. I looked for ingredients. There were no ingredients on the packaging. At least like the tube. It might have been on the exterior box that they normally come in, which we didn't have. But I don't know. They could have like xylitol or something in them. I have no idea. Xylitol is incredibly toxic to dogs. But just I'm getting off topic. Don't use human toothpaste for your dogs. Really, all I recommend, use a toothbrush that is made for dogs. The brush head is much, much smaller. Even smaller than a child's toothbrush. So if that's all you have, you can probably get away with using a child's toothbrush depending on how big your dog's mouth is. And then for toothpaste, all I really recommend using is coconut oil. I mean, it's perfect. Like you could do really well with just using the brush, but to get that extra oomph out of it, put a little bit of coconut oil on the toothbrush. Yeah, so, and you know, not all dogs are gonna love this. The earlier you start, the better. Associate it with positive things, so reward around it, you know, playtime, or there's lots of things you can do to make that time more enjoyable for your dog. But get in the habit. It's really important to have good dental health. I mean, you know that's true for you. It's also true for our pets and your cats too, by the way. All right, so I know we have talked about this one on the channel, and I have posted about it on Patreon. In fact, there was a, on Earth Day, I did a big post on Patreon. If you're not a Patreon supporter, check the first link in the description. I would love to see you over there. So the number 4 thing that you are not intentionally doing, so unintentionally doing, that is harming your dog is that you are using chemical cleaners around your house. So like I said, I did an entire post on this on Earth Day, specifically about cleaners, and I gave some recipes for, you know, DIY homemade cleaners that are non-toxic, that are safe for your dogs, and I specifically gave the recipes that I use. There are more out there, but these are the ones that I use and I love. And yeah, so a lot of most cleaners that you buy, like commercially, have a lot of chemicals in them, and they can be very dangerous for your pets. There are just tons of things inside of cleaners that are not good for your health or your pet's health. Phthalates are one of them. And here's the thing. Anything that contains a phthalate, and I'm not going to get too much into this because I talk about it in the videos where I'm giving you the recipes. So you can check those videos out. You can join me on Patreon because I linked to those videos. There is a certain level that is acceptable by the FDA for phthalates to be in the human body, which I'm going to get off topic just a little bit. So my husband and I, a couple of weeks ago, watched a Joe Rogan interview with Dr. Shanna Swan. I think I'm saying that right. It's Shanna Swan. And she actually has done a lot of research on fertility and the reproductive system of humans, which has been declining rapidly, in the past 50, 60 years, with the introduction of plastics, and specifically single-use plastics, because we use so much. If you just going grocery shopping, it's hard to find foods that aren't packaged in plastics. Anyway, there is a certain level of phthalate that is acceptable by the FDA and the human body. Now, veterinarians or scientists have studied dogs and cats and found that phthalate levels in dogs and cats significantly exceeds acceptable levels for humans. Now, if you think about how big our body is and how small their bodies are, there's a huge problem there. So anyway, I'm not going to get too much more into that because there's a lot more material on that on my channel and on my Patreon. So definitely check out Patreon because it can condenses all of the information and gives you direct links, so you're not searching around for things. So needless to say, I recommend making your own cleaners, DIY homemade cleaners that are chemical free. It is much healthier for you, much healthier for your pets. You know what you're using in your home. And just to kind of put a little thought in your head, this, doesn't end at cleaners. We're talking about air fresheners, scented candles, fabric softeners, laundry detergent. The list goes on and on and on. Phthalates are in personal care products for you. I mean, almost everything. So and on top of that, anything that says natural fragrance is pretty much a no-go for me, because that is one way that companies list phthalates without listing phthalates, meaning there are phthalates in the product, but they get to list them as natural fragrances, so you don't have any idea what's actually in the packaging. That's legal, and it's just one loophole that exists. So pretty much anything with a natural fragrance is a no-go for me. That also goes for cat litters that you're buying, or literally anything. If it says natural fragrance, or and honestly anything in the kitchen, anything we buy even for us to eat, if it says natural flavors, we really think twice about buying it. I mean, really think twice about buying it. So anyway, get back to the list. We're on number 5 now. And we have talked about this a lot, but it is worth repeating. Using physical punishment is something you should never, ever, 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 ever do with your dog or your cat, by the way. Never, ever, ever. If I had to make a list of all the videos on this channel that I talked about why you should not use physical punishment and what you should be doing instead, I mean, the list would be a mile long. So, it literally should go without saying, we're in the year 2021, it should go without saying that you should never, ever, ever hit, punch, kick, or otherwise injure your pet. Never, ever, ever. Unfortunately, it still has to be said, and so I'm saying it. Don't slap them, don't hit them, don't kick them, don't pull their tail, don't pull their ears. Physical punishment is no way to train a dog, and honestly, you are much more likely to wind up with a dog who's going to lash out and bite someone because they need to defend themselves, because that is what they're being taught to do, is that they have to defend themselves because you're hurting them all the time. And here's the deal, we believe in science, right? All right, so science has brought us all the wonderful things like gravity and antibiotics, and it also tells us that positive reinforcement is hands down the best and most effective way to teach anyone anything, including dogs. So no physical punishment, guys. So we have already gone through 5 of the 9 harmful things you're doing to your dog without realizing it. So before we move on, I just want to remind everybody, if you have any comments, if you have any questions, go ahead and post them in the chat. I would love to know about you and your pets. Let me know where you're from, what the weather is like today, what pets you have, how many you have, if you have dogs, if you have cats, if you have rabbits or ferrets. I'd love to know. And any questions that you may have relating to your pets. I would love to be able to help you out with that. But I can't do that unless you post a comment or a question, or join me on Patreon. Check the first link in the description to join me on Patreon. So, number 6, let's move on. We're on number 6 now. Sending your dog away to obedience school, which a lot of people call board and train. So, I'm all for training dogs, right? Like that's one of the things I do. And I think it's important, not only so your dog has like just a minimum level of listening to you so they don't, run out in the street and get hit by a car, or, they pick something up in their mouth that they shouldn't have and they need to be able to drop it, right? So there's like a minimum level of training that, every dog should pretty much have. But if I could only pick like one rule of training, which would be insanely hard to do, but if I could only pick one to be like the top number one thing that everyone needs to know, is that training is just as much about teaching the owner as it is about teaching the dog. So if you think about that, if that is literally like the number one thing I would want everyone to know, then board and train doesn't make sense. Sending your dog off to have somebody else train them for you and then they come back to you in a week or 2 weeks doesn't make any sense. Because when they come back to you, you have no idea how to continue reinforcing the good behavior, how to continue with, even if they give you a briefing at the end of it all, right? Which a lot of them do. You haven't been through all of that with your dog. So you've missed out on learning your dog's body language and figuring out when they're about to do something, or figuring out what their threshold level is, right? Especially if you're working with a dog who and also you have no idea what they're doing to your dog. I have heard so many horror stories about people who sent their dog away on a board and train and didn't ask all the right questions because they probably didn't know all the right questions to ask. And even if they did, they weren't there to do anything about it. And their dog was trained with a shock collar or a prong collar and has serious mental issues because of it. Like PTSD, right? And why wouldn't you? If you went through a torture camp, which is what a shock collar is, basically, you would probably have some PTSD too. And it's, a lifetime of living with and trying to help your dog deal with that fear and anxiety that didn't exist before. Also, you completely miss out on that bonding experience with your dog. Training is as much about bonding with your dog as it is actually teaching your dog the cues, the behaviors, the actions that you want out of them. So you're completely missing out on that bonding experience with them if you send them away to a board and train program. So I am absolutely against board and train programs, even if you say you're disabled and you can't physically do a lot of these things with your dog to train them. You should be there with a trainer. Have a trainer come to your house, or you go and work with a trainer in a park, or if they have a location, if that's what you need to do. Or there's so many options out there. Get a friend or family member to come over and help you and go through an online program. There's so much more that can be done. Board and train to me is just certainly not a good option, to say the least. So, all right, guys, we're just pushing our way through. I might go over the 30-minute time frame by just a little bit. I'm going to try really hard not to. So let's move on to number 7. So not providing enough exercise and enrichment. So most dogs, we know, are going to need daily walks, and every dog is different. Some dogs will need more than once a day walks. Others may be in poor health and walking may actually be too much for them. And that happens. So every dog is different. You know your dog the best, but the one thing I've noticed with pretty much all of my training clients is that most dogs are not being appropriately stimulated. So dogs need to work their brains, they need to work their minds just as much as they need to work their bodies and get exercise in. So walks and runs and hikes are wonderful, wonderful exercises, but don't forget about their brains. Make sure you're giving them, allowing them room to sniff when you go out for walks. That's great for their brains, and that's one thing that you can do. But we can also provide them with mental stimulation in other forms, which, we can play, we can provide them puzzle feeders, we can give them a job to do, which, by the way, I had a whole post on Patreon about that a few weeks ago as well. We did a video about it, but I went into even more detail. on my Patreon, which is what I try to do. So you get one, right now on Patreon, you're getting at least one exclusive content piece a week. Plus, you get first access to what we talk about live on Sundays with extra. So like whatever we're talking about on Sunday, you get all of that information plus some. So there's a lot of great content over there. I really hope you check it out. So we talked about, giving your dog a job to do, whether that be scent work or, learning to pick up their toys and put them in their basket. Playing fetch in the backyard is another great way to provide additional mental and physical exercise for your dog. So quickly, we're just going to try to breeze through these. Number 8. We're on number 8 now of 9, so we're almost there. Letting children handle and hurt your dog. So I have seen this one is the one that like really just got me in a mood this morning, guys. So many people, post on social media. I actually worked with somebody 2.5 years ago. I tried really hard. And that's why I said it can be really hard to get through to people like this sometimes. They need to rehome their dog because the dog snapped at a child in the house. It's infuriating to me because it's our responsibility as parents and pet guardians to keep children away from our pets. Like, little kids have absolutely no idea how to act, how to behave around a pet. They don't know not to smack and hit and pull on tails and ears, and they don't, really little kids don't even understand, like, you need to start immediately with, no, we don't touch the dog, no, we don't grab the dog, no, we don't ride on top of the dog. But it's hard for them to grasp concepts until they're a little bit older. But we have to consistently work at this. We should never, ever, 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 ever leave children alone with pets. If your child is around any one of your pets, you need to be like a hawk, watching every second of it. This goes for cats too, because cats are really not going to put up with having their tails pulled or being hit or smacked. They're going to, they're going to smack right back at your kid, and they're going to get scratched. And it's not the cat's fault. It's let me be real, because I'm in a mood today. Like, it's your fault for letting it happen. Like, letting your child smack or hit or get close enough to your cat or dog to harm them, or to make your cat or dog feel fearful. That should never ever happen. So yeah, I'm just gonna leave that there, guys. It's our responsibility to teach our children how to properly interact with our pets, and if they are too young to understand those concepts, then we need to make sure they are not getting close enough to our pets where anything can happen. Like, that's just period, end of story. I'm gonna move on, because like I said, this one just has had me in a mood this morning, if you can't tell. So let's move on to the number 9 and final topic we're going to talk about today of harmful things you're doing to your dog without even realizing it. And a lot of these apply to cats too, guys. In fact, pretty much all of them apply to cats too. Number 9 is ignoring your body language and your dog's body language. So, like I was saying earlier, our dogs they understand some of what we're saying, but it's not because they understand English. They do not understand English. The bulk of their behaviors and actions are a result of how they interpret our body language and in our tone of voice. Sometimes they can start to learn a word because they can hear a sound and understand what that sound means. So if they're hearing the same sound every time, like saying yes or saying no or saying come or saying stay, or those kind of things. But a lot of their behaviors and actions are a result of body language that they're getting from us. So just as one example, tension on the leash makes your dog nervous and anxious. So you, as your dog's guardian, need to stop pulling on the leash constantly. We don't want that leash tight because it's making your dog feel nervous and anxious. Ideally, we would be walking on a loose leash. So if you're having trouble with walking your dog on a loose leash, then I would definitely recommend checking out my online training because there's a lot in there to break down and go over, a lot more than can be even talked about in one single video. But that, you know, so we need to work on our body language around our pets, but we also need to get better at reading their body language, because really we're terrible at it. Like, just in general as humans, we're terrible at reading dogs' body language. And just as one example, a lot of people, you see this all the time, post, or, you know, they think their dog is looking guilty, when in fact dogs have absolutely no concept of guilt, and this has been proven through scientific research. What they are doing is reacting to your tone and body language. They don't understand what guilt is. They're just reacting to how you're acting. So this is just one way of how we are misinterpreting our dogs. So we need to work on our body language, because that's how our dogs understand us, and we need to work on understanding their body language, because that's how we need to understand them. So, all right, guys, I tried. We're just a little bit over our 30-minute mark. I hope this information was helpful to you. I hope you learned something. Like I said at the beginning, there are 2 more things that I have on my list for today, but they are bonus content for my Patreon supporters. And if I do say so myself, they are really, really important ones. So I do hope you follow me over on Patreon. The link is the first link in the description. But if you just go over to Patreon, you can search my name, Jessica Fisher, and you will be able to find me. All right, guys, so let me know what on this list of 9 that we went over today, or if you join me over on Patreon, it's a list of 11. 9 plus 2 bonuses, with a lot of additional links. So a lot more information for you to read and take action on some of these steps. So let me know what of these 9 things perked your interest, or, you know, let me know some changes that you may be making because of this list. I would love to hear from you. I'd love to hear about you and your pets. Thank you so much for joining me here today. I hope this video was helpful. Please give it a thumbs up if it was. And if you are not already subscribed to my channel, which I hope you are, that subscribe button down there should be gray. But if it's not, if it's red, go ahead and click it and turn it gray. Once it does turn gray, a bell will appear next to it. So click the bell and select all notifications. That way YouTube can notify you anytime I post a video and anytime I'm going live. All right, guys, I hope you enjoy your Sunday. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I hope this video was helpful. I can't wait to see you and hear about you and your pets in our next video. See you guys later. Bye. Have a great day.